Welcome back to Friday Night League here for our next game of the night. We got FlyQuest going up against 100 Thieves.
Yeah, it should be a good one, and looking forward to see if we get any more Ignite junglers, you know?
Oh, yes.
Flowers is ready to go with the Ignite Skarner tech now, you know? No? Not the Ignite Skarner? Is that you? I mean, it is more Chad, right? Like, I thought that was supposed to be the thing, right?
Yeah, except for the part where you're up against any champion that has a dash, and now you can't flash on him, and you're just like, well, I'm
like
a lobster.
Excuses. Which between the two, which one does damage, Flash or Ignite?
After we're done with LCS tonight, you want to play a game of League of Legends, and I'll be your jungler, and I'll play Smite Ignite Skarner.
I would love to. It sounds delightful.
All right, that's what we're doing after this then. But for now, we have a different task in front of us. It's FlyQuest going up against 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves down there around the same part of the standings that Immortals and Dignitas are, trying to climb their way up from the bottom here as we're about done with the first half of the split. FlyQuest much more up in a comfortable position, sitting at 5-3 right now. You would expect them to beat 100 Thieves here based on their win-loss records so far. We'll see if they can bring that win-loss up to 6-3. Twisted Fate, Graves, Aphelios, Volibear, Trundle, and Varus all banned away.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how FlyQuest comes out today. You know, they were like a hair's breadth away from actually beating TL last Sunday, I want to say it was. Maybe it was Saturday. But in their final game of last weekend, it was kind of that throw around Baron by Mash. One critical error really did cost them so much of the game. But they're a team that's known for their consistency, right? So you want to see them bounce back. You want to see them take games against teams that are behind them in the standings. Most people weren't too dissuaded by that one mistake from FlyQuest and still have them pretty high in the power rankings. Most people I've talked to still have them, as the second or third best team in the league. So 100 Thieves is going to be in tough against them. They have, their roster swaps in here as well. Contractz and Poome, making their debut for the team last weekend. And it's been interesting to see some of the teams down near the bottom making changes. I am glad that they're not just kind of like autopiloting it and playing the season out, clearly trying to mix things up and see if they can get something going.
And I've had a lot of fun watching Poome so far. I think he's had a pretty exciting entrance to the LCS. He's had a couple cool highlight plays in his games, and I want to see if he can continue popping off here in this game. FlyQuest grabbing themselves Ezreal, Orianna, and Olaf in the first half of the draft. 100 Thieves picking up Syndra, Kalista, and Sett. So we've got 80 carries, we've got mid laners, we've got what is most likely jungler for FlyQuest and could be jungler or top laner, or could be support for 100 Thieves as well. Kalista with Sett support to throw him in there like a big old bowling ball. Let's see how the draft shakes out afterwards, though. Lee Sin banned out by FlyQuest. They know they've got their jungler. They're assuming that the Sett is not the enemy jungler. They want to keep Contractz off of a playmaker there, and 100 Thieves are going to ban away the Ornn.
Yeah, the biggest thing I have my eyes on already is that 100 Thieves not only took away Sett, but banned Ornn. Those are the two most played by Solo by far. He only actually has one game outside of those two champions, and it is one Maokai game. So, trying to focus Solo a bit here. Solo has been a very strong performer throughout this split for FlyQuest, and really ever since he came in for the team, in lieu of Viper in playoffs last split, he looked pretty good. So, 100 Thieves trying to set up Ssumday for success, trying to take away some of these comfort picks, and it may be Ssumday on the Sett, but as you say, it could be flexed around here a fair bit. Contractz going to be bringing out the Nidalee, which Nidalee has not had a lot of success, I would say, in the LCS. It has kind of been struggling. It is a very powerful early game champion, but it is one of those where a lot of people are actually struggling to close out games with it. It gets much more difficult to actually play this champion out in the later stages, and in the early stages, it's very much about playing in your opponent's face, trying to steal away camps, trying to keep them down as that opposing jungler, and then later on you kind of transition more towards this supportive role generally. A lot of people are going Athenes, second item, and just kind of sitting back and playing more of a supportive role.
I was so concerned for a second when I saw FlyQuest hovering over Tahm Kench, and I was thinking, you have Ezreal. Please, for the love of God, don't pick this champion. We need to see some engaged potential. And FlyQuest did draft themselves the Rakan, so we have some engage there. I was a bit concerned we were going to see something like we saw in the previous game where there wasn't a lot of engage on one side here. But with Rakan now locked in, they've got that. They're taking the Renekton into the top side. He will be up against Jayce, and it is Sett support. Bowling ball Sett here with the Kalista.
Very interesting. This 100 Thieves comp, is a lot of early game, mid game power. But again, it feels like they're putting themselves a little bit in the Immortals' shoes, where it's a difficult comp to actually play out. I will say they have more win conditions because you can split push with the Jayce. You can look for poke obviously with Ezreal, with the Jayce and the Nidalee. So they have some ability to actually play out in multiple ways there. Nidalee, I just double checked, actually is winless in the LCS. It is 0-5, so no one has actually won yet on the champion. And FlyQuest over on the other side, this just feels much more like, death ball style League of Legends. Group up, throw in this Rakan to ult and CC people up with the Olaf with, the Renekton flying in after, and Orianna Shockwave, Ezreal ultimate to actually follow that up. So really good engage on that side, really good team fighting. And I do think that 100 Thieves have the ability to win this game, but it does feel, again, very dependent upon early game execution.
And I'm going to levy the same complaint against their composition that I levied against Immortals last time. If you're one of the top teams in this, like if these drafts were reversed, if it was FlyQuest as a team that, like you said, a lot of people are looking at them as number 2, number 3, like in that upper echelon of teams in the LCS, I would be more okay with them taking a Nidalee Jayce type of composition than I am with 100 Thieves doing it. This is the pro play equivalent of LS telling players that want to climb to pick Annie. Because you need to play something with simple, straightforward execution. And this isn't flame, this is facts. If you're low
Maybe
in
it's
the standings,
some flame,
It's not, well, it's only flame because Annie uses fire. That's
educational.
It's lower flame. It's the end of the day, what I'm saying, Isaac, is that if you're at 2 and 6, you're there because there are execution errors, and that execution needs to be made straightforward. And Nidalee is not going to result in a straightforward late-game fight type of composition that is then going to give you the best chance to win. Maybe they can prove me wrong. I said last game, I welcome being proved wrong. I'm not going to repeat all the stuff that I said then. But if they can prove me wrong, I welcome it. We will see.
And I will say, to play devil's advocate a bit, I largely do agree with your points, but just to devil's advocate it, if you're saying, hey, when we're the worst team, FlyQuest is really consistent, FlyQuest is really good at late game team fights, we will lose if we get there, let's all in on early game, right? And I can respect that if that is the idea here. Go Kalista, go Sett, Nidalee, is a really fast, good counter jungler early on in the game. Jayce should be winning up on that top side in the 1v1. Try to just slam lanes, even Syndra against the Orianna, and maybe that's the idea. So we'll see if they're going to be able to execute it. And also, the other caveat is the difference between this, also in the Immortals comp, is that they can actually split push, right? So there's more than just team fighting to win this game because you do have the Jayce. So interested to see how they can pull this off. And mid lane gank here from Contractz.
Contractz shows up with the Nidalee, gets some red buff auto attacks into the damage going through, and first blood over to 100 Thieves, making it happen.
Really well done. He's got to get out of there though. Santorin does know he's around here.
TP also coming in from PowerOfEvil, hasting back into the fight, but FlyQuest with some really poor choices early on in this game. They give away a second one. Ryoma lets them know that this is fine, as well as a distressed crab. And man, 100 Thieves could not have asked for a better start.
Yeah, that is rough. This is just a nice early gank after taking away the enemy red buff. But PowerOfEvil, you need to flash the spear. Once you actually get hit by that spear, you get the additional pounce range. Sure, he flashes the pounce itself, but then the flash follow, very easily done there. And Santorin, yeah, if you can actually catch up to Contractz, you have the TP coming in, that's great. But look at where the TP is, and look at where Santorin is. There's no way for PowerOfEvil to get over there. And by the way, PowerOfEvil was TPing in as a level 1 Orianna. So you were just going way too fast. That just felt like they were really hungry to get a kill back after that early mistake. And, flashing in half HP on that Olaf just isn't it when there's 2 members there from 100 Thieves.
Really big early error there from FlyQuest to give away a second kill and spend your mid laner's teleport to do it. We'll see what 100 Thieves can build for themselves off of that unforced error from FlyQuest. We talk a lot about sort of what caused teams to lose in these games. Was it a mistake you made, or was it just the fact that your opponents played better? And oftentimes we do see these unforced errors from teams that honestly they really didn't have any business making.
Yeah, the second one I would categorize as, you know, an unforced error. The first one feels like, you know, they put pressure on, you probably wasn't expecting the level 2 Nidalee gank, you know, this sort of stuff. So that feels more like, you know, you forced out a mistake due to your early planning, due to the level 1 invade. You know, they had the Sett was starting with Sweeper to actually sweep out the ward, so you couldn't tell if Nidalee actually was leaving from that red buff area or going to gank after taking it. So there was some preparation there from 100 Thieves, which I actually really do like. I think when you're going to go for these early game style picks and you're going to have a more powerful level 1, you want to commit to that. You want to be looking for edges where you can get them, and this is back-to-back games where we've seen, you know, level 1 invades actually work out very well for this team that has kind of more of a commitment towards the early game. So credit to 100 Thieves, and we'll see if they can kind of keep this rolling, because Contractz, the 2 early kills, you know, when you get to that Runic Echoes early on as Nidalee, your burst is really, really pricey.
Incredible. And I actually think those 2 kills that 100 Thieves got are probably a really good way to contrast the good play from one side versus the poor decision-making of the other side, right? That first one, exactly what you were talking about, 100 Thieves planning it out, making sure they could get that first blood. But then the teleport in afterwards, just not the same thing, as they're going for the dive here on the top side. And ladies and gentlemen, 100 Thieves continuing to get things done up here in the top side now. That is their 3rd kill of the game. That is kill credit over to Ssumday. This Jayce is in charge of the top lane.
This is like a my mid laner, your mid laner style game. Ryoma, nice TP there up towards that top lane. That was just really well done. We saw, you know, PowerOfEvil not able to get anything with his on that return, trying to get that kill back on Contractz. And Ryoma, you know, just nicely set up dive there with Ssumday, who had solo poked low, who had him with no health potion, and just TPing on the minion to kind of guarantee that was very, very smart. So 100 Thieves already out to a great start here. And if Jayce gets too far ahead of the Renekton, it can get pretty brutal for that Renekton, because your all-in potential when you are playing against that phase rush Jayce is greatly reduced, unless you're, you know, really, really strong.
FlyQuest now have to find a way to stop this bleeding and get themselves back into the game. Contractz not bothering to clear out that ward he's getting on top of. It's already disabled. Ryoma stepping forward, looking for the burst. Spear coming in, but PowerOfEvil stepping out of the way, will stay alive. Santorin still hovering around this mid lane. Contractz getting a little bit of damage down onto him, using the red smite there to make sure the auto attacks can find some extra. And now, with the enemy jungler pushed back, with the enemy mid laner not doing so hot, 100 Thieves recognizes they have control over the bottom river.
Yep, nicely done. You know, they weren't fully coordinated. I'm not sure if Contractz was actually in range when he did land that stun, but the idea was there. You land the Scatter of the Weak. The Spear is then kind of supposed to be guaranteed, but PowerOfEvil might just get a solo kill here.
This could be what the doctor ordered for FlyQuest. PowerOfEvil needed a couple more seconds on the flash. It was not quite available just yet. Now he has it. Also having the Ignite ready to go, and there it is, ladies and gentlemen. PowerOfEvil gets the solo kill.
Greed is a deadly sin, Ryoma. Why are you staying in lane? You see that he has Ignite. You should know that flash is up here shortly. He just tried to stay in lane straight up with like 10% health. That was really, really foolish, and Ryoma, you know, giving PowerOfEvil way back into the game as he now has that solo kill. They're looking for IgNar on this bottom side.
IgNar dashing away with the grand entrance as a grand exit. Gets to safety, loses half his HP, and yeah, the mistake from Ryoma there in the mid lane, providing PowerOfEvil the chance to catch back up. The CS between these mid laners now even. Ryoma's got the 3 assists, but the 1 kill on PowerOfEvil is going to catch that gold up very nicely between the two. Contractz and Poome seizing the opportunity to go after this first Drake here, and they'll secure that one with no contest coming out from FlyQuest. With the second Drake, you can see the symbol on the wall there indicating it'll be Mountain. That means we get either Infernal Soul or Ocean Soul again this game.
Yep, and that's just one of those plays that you just don't want to see happen. Solo, though, maybe he can chase down, and he will be able to get out. It's just greed, right? It's plain and simple. That's something that, honestly, I get caught doing a lot in solo queue. You stay around for the extra wave. You're like, well,
just one more wave, man.
I can probably push it out, or I almost have my buy. You know, I'm sure I'm fine here at 20%. You know you're not. You need to accept it. You need to give up the minions in base, and Ryoma makes the classic error.
I always do that too. You go into the enemy jungle trying to steal a camp. The solo tries to go for the solo kill, but now it's going to be Contractz and IgNar both moving themselves up into this fight. Shockwave not going to be accelerated to find its way onto IgNar as Santorin pushes forward, but Poome has now joined the fight. No level 6 here on the Sett. Does try to use the face breaker, but won't grab the stun. Spear won't find a target either. Solo dashing back over the wall. Ryoma grabbing some CC onto the enemy jungler, but Santorin popping the ulti to get himself away. Shock Blast going to find a little bit of damage. There's so many health bars taking so much damage, but none of it has managed to focus one person down hard enough to mean a kill for either side.
This is pretty insane. Nice skirmishing here. 100 Thieves really committing to this early aggression. You know, Poome was there to actually match the roam from IgNar, and Contractz.
Oh, we're not done yet, ladies and gentlemen, and Contractz will be pop. Power of Evil showing the power of Orianna as Poome is taking a lot of damage here in the 2v2, following things up. Popping the Haymaker to get the shield, down to 1 auto attack range for death, but he will walk away.
Power of Evil gets another kill, and that one is the shutdown. So despite the early gank going the way of 100 Thieves, killing off Power of Evil, and Power of Evil honestly making the mistake, you know, not flashing that spear, he is right back in it. It's just a great flash stun there from Solo. Yes, Contractz is ahead, but he's still incredibly squishy, and the flash stun there from the Renekton into the Shockwave was very, very well done. This was kind of a back and forth fight, and it did feel like 100 Thieves had the best of it. But Ssumday is going back to top lane. Ryoma is actually going back to mid lane here. You know, they're not really fully together anymore, and that's when you have to back off. And FlyQuest just come on in and take advantage of that. Flash W, Shockwave comboed off that, no way to actually dodge out, and Poome was very lucky that he even escaped with his life.
I criticized Power of Evil at level 1, and I've got to give him props for everything since then. Getting back into the game, keeping a level head, making sure he's still going to be relevant, and popping off now on this Summoner Spellbook Orianna. You can see him now equipping the Ghost, ready to go to get into the team fights with a different mobility spell, with the flash still on cooldown there. As the next Drake will be spawning in 2 minutes, with the Herald also gone. Nothing really to fight over now for these two squads. Plenty of time left for Santorin to summon that up whenever he wants to. He'll pretty much have the full remaining duration of turret plates to drop that Shelly. The last game, we saw Immortals get absolutely no value out of the first Rift Herald. They dropped it and it was killed before it was able to get the charge off. So hopefully for the side of FlyQuest, they will find more success than what Immortals did in our previous matchup, as 100 Thieves are looking for a potential opportunity onto Power of Evil, but he senses something's wrong. See, he's not falling for the greedy trap. He's not walking up thinking, maybe I could get a plate or something. You know, there's a little bit of extra gold up there. Now, Power of Evil, he knows better.
Yep, bot lane missing, jungle, MIA, time to get out of there. And Ssumday, he's like a really strong up on this top side. Almost has his Black Cleaver, double Dorans. He just took a plate there, so may actually have Black Cleaver gold at this point, very far ahead of Solo. And Ssumday is going to be one of those win conditions. We'll see if Contractz can continue to actually try to push him ahead. It does feel like their strongest member right now, and they should be able to actually win those 2v2s up on the top side if they can execute correctly.
Ssumday could be so scary if he keeps this pace up moving forward. I like the Black Cleaver choice just to make sure he has the bigger health pool, so when Solo tries to go for the all-in, he just doesn't automatically get the best of him there. And you can see that trade looked scary at the start, but Ssumday sticking around after Solo had already used his entire combo, making sure things even out.
Yeah, and that's really kind of the terrifying thing about these Jayce players, you know, who do play phase rush, is you can go in as a melee champion and you win the upfront trade, especially with Renekton. You know, you have that stun. He's not fighting back. But then as you try to actually retreat out, he procs phase rush and he can sometimes just chase you down and put so much damage onto you that, you know, you either lose the trade very heavily or even just straight up lose your life. And here FlyQuest moving over to that middle lane, just going to drop the Herald here to try to give some gold to Power of Evil. Santorin got out of there immediately, and they're also using this to try to actually contest this dragon, because 100 Thieves did get the first one. They want to continue snowballing these dragons, utilizing their early power. They have Kalista, so they have that objective secure, and FlyQuest is trying to contest this.
Good job by Contractz and Poome moving up into the river as that Rift Herald was summoned to make sure that FlyQuest didn't get the control they wanted by using it. And now 100 Thieves are setting up wards, they're setting up traps, they're trying to control this entire area and make sure they can keep that stacking going. They still have a 1,500 gold lead here 13 minutes in. They still should have the edge in this fight. Teleport's available for both top laners, and they are both heading back up into that top side. Sometimes you'll see somebody try to path down here earlier. Cody Sun going to face check IgNar, who uses the ulti into the knockup. They're finding so much damage, but Cody Sun fail flashing, and that should be surely a kill here. FlyQuest get the kill onto Cody. A misplay from him spells disaster for 100 Thieves, and Santorin goes over to pick up his Drake.
Man, I've got to give a lot of credit to IgNar. I really am starting to feel like the IgNar signature play, is this Rakan? Contractz, don't go for that. Is this sort of play where Ryoma now, he's actually probably just dead. He's TP'd on. See you later.
Ryoma in the middle of everybody here as he should be taken down. PowerOfEvil also nearly popped there. Ssumday trying to come in, find some sort of a revenge kill here. But 100 Thieves are in a 3 versus 4, and they won't take it any further.
Ah, the classic Syndra flank. worked out about as well as expected. Was a nice attempt, but not gonna result in a kill there for them. But they did actually get a lot of chunk down. They will result in them taking the dragon here. Solo, though, it has to be noted, didn't actually match TPs. So, they will lose the dragon, but they will get plates up on that top side, and he can start to close the gap a little bit between himself and the Jayce. But to talk about IgNar a little bit, as I was trying to before we got interrupted by that play, IgNar has been, I want to say, one of the best players I have ever seen at actually finding these unique angles. Whenever he's playing the Rakan, he's constantly sneaking around. This wasn't the craziest of angles, but you'll notice when they fight at neutral objectives, he's often actually like wrapped around the Baron Pit or wrapped behind the Dragon Pit, and he comes on these solo flanks where he can find these really, really good picks and really, really good engages, and this was just another example of that. I think IgNar has been playing very well for FlyQuest this season, and smart little play from him, gets behind Cody Sun and costs Cody Sun his summer and his life.
Honestly, I feel like this 100 Thieves gold lead was at its best 6 or 7 minutes into the game, and for the past 10 minutes, it's just been slowly shrinking closer and closer back towards that neutral state. Only 1,000 separating the squads now. Ssumday trying to build that back up, take down this tier 1 turret here in the top lane. 100 Thieves currently commanding a 1-0 turret count in the first place. Wanting to get a little bit of extra money in the pockets there. Black Cleaver fully completed for Ssumday. You can see Solo's inventory, despite the fact that their CS is pretty much even. He's 2 kills behind. He also had to make sure he rushed the ninja tabbies to resist some of that auto attack damage he was consistently going to be taking, so his Black Cleaver still a way away. As Contractz hovers this top side, the ward will spot him out as Santorin clears away some of this 100 Thieves vision in the FlyQuest jump.
Yep, and although I don't think that 100 Thieves are in as good of a position as they were actually earlier on, they did get those 2 dragons, and Soul is still in condition, right? If you can actually grab that Ocean Soul, it becomes so frustrating to deal with. FlyQuest does have the ability to potentially just burst you through it, 100 to 0 you, and then the Soul isn't going to be really doing much, but Nidalee plus Jayce poking you constantly with that Ocean Soul is going to be very, very frustrating, so, that is something that FlyQuest is going to want to try to put a stop to. They did look to try to fight at the second dragon, so they're very clearly aware of the potential of that being a problem later on, and I do expect them to try to prep for this third dragon here coming up in 3 minutes and look to put a stop to 100 Thieves stacking.
Santorin trying to grab this second herald of the game for the side of FlyQuest. Remember, the first one was used mid lane. They got 2 plates out of it. They tried to use it as a distraction for Drake. 100 Thieves responded appropriately, and it didn't result in, honestly, anything more than those 2 plates. We'll see if they can use it here to make something happen in top or in mid lane. Nobody really focusing on that bottom side, considering the tier 1 turret's already been lost for FlyQuest down there. I don't expect Santorin to hike all the way across the map just to drop Shelly. This top lane tier 1 nearly killed off already. IgNar and Mash with that demolished proc should only need a couple more autos to kill it off, and there we go. FlyQuest getting their first turret of the game.
Yep, going to be able to almost even up the gold lead at this point. Just down 500. Ryoma, though, looking for PowerOfEvil.
PowerOfEvil trying to get himself away from that Super Soaker. Oh, ELP. Oh, nice shot, Ssumday.
Really well done there by Ssumday, cleaning up PowerOfEvil and gets the shutdown. And Ssumday is really, really strong. He has the Black Cleaver. He has the Serrated Dirk on top of that. That Shock Blast also taking about 30% of the health there off of Mash, so very, very threatening. Ryoma almost had enough damage for the solo kill, but did actually miss the Scout of the Week. And that's something where, if he actually just changed the order of his spells a little bit, if he used the Hextech GLP, this slowdown, prior to going for the Scout of the Week, it becomes so much harder to actually dodge that. Instead, he actually spent the stun and then used the slow just kind of for that additional damage. So I do think there was a possibility of Ryoma, with better kind of spell order, actually getting the solo kill. But Ssumday there to make up for that mistake and cleans up the kill.
It's actually the smarter play to use the spells in the wrong order, because now you get assist money, Isaac.
Oh, brilliant.
Assist money expands the kill by 50% value. Yeah, they're just maxing out their economic gains by allowing Ssumday to make the highlight play and get that downtown shock blast, as now 100 Thieves are looking to go for that third Drake, really put the pressure on FlyQuest. 45 seconds or so until that next one's going to be spawning, and you can see 100 Thieves. I like this. They're already getting into position into the river. They're not going to show up with 15 seconds to go and then try to force FlyQuest out. They want to set up nice and early and make sure that they can keep up this pressure. They've done a good job at maintaining so far in this game. Shockwave from PowerOfEvil's not going to find the target that it's looking for, and Ezreal, that's a really big cooldown to not have available for this Drake fight if FlyQuest are still thinking about fighting it. Shelly was summoned up in the mid lane, and okay, she did show up. I was worried this was going to be like in the old school days when the summon time was longer and it just gets interrupted. Sad.
I've still actually never seen it fully get interrupted. And Poome flashing in, quick flash out there by PowerOfEvil. That was a really good reaction from him. But Ssumday coming over, and Santorin is already very low, so Santorin takes even like one shock blast, they're probably just going to have to back it up. And I think with Shockwave down, with Santorin low on health, this should be 100 Thieves taking the dragon. They just need to play it slow. Avoid the hard engage. Continue looking for poke. Don't commit to a fight, because that is the only way FlyQuest really takes this. You land a little bit more poke on Santorin, and FlyQuest will likely just give you the dragon for free.
Yeah, IgNar is the man to watch if you're a 100 Thieves fan right now, because that's the only way this fight should go awry. Santorin's still at only half HP. Ssumday grouped up with the rest of the 100 Thieves squad. Santorin may go in and go for a fight here, but the Shockwave is back off of cooldown, and FlyQuest decided it's time to fight. They will steal the Drake away as well, and tragedy falls like a meteor on 100 Thieves. Poome tries to get himself back. They will lose solo, but they will take a Drake and 3 as the price. FlyQuest win that fight.
3 for 1 plus the dragon. Huge win there for FlyQuest. They are in full control now. Great shockwave from PowerOfEvil. And as you say, I mean, that cooldown is just so short. Like, look at it right now. It's over halfway back up already. They do stop that dragon stacking. We're going to see it one more time. Santorin was already low. 100 Thieves just decided to kind of force it. I do think that they could have just slow played it a little bit more, waited for additional poke, but they felt like we have Kalista, we have the ability to just rush this down. Instead, the Shockwave catching both Contractz and Ryoma. Ryoma goes down immediately, and the stun was still actually available there from solo, which forces Ssumday to flash out. Cody Sun gets piled on top of, and Poome had already spent the flash over by mid lane, which we had to see PowerOfEvil react to very quickly, and he was able to do so, and so he's just going to get chased down too. PowerOfEvil has really been playing well after that early mistake, has been pretty monstrous in this game.
He has been instrumental in keeping FlyQuest where they are right here, and you can see the damage done in the last fight. It was MASH quietly just popping off, despite the fact that the Shockwave started it all. MASH made sure it ended well for FlyQuest, and I guarantee you, 100 Thieves had no idea that Shockwave was ready yet. They were playing around the fact that ult wasn't there, because otherwise there's no way PowerOfEvil would have been able to get that Shockwave the way he did. But for FlyQuest, that's such a huge win. Rabadon's death cap, locked and loaded for PowerOfEvil, along with the fully evolved Seraph's Embrace. These Shockwaves are going to just completely eviscerate 100 Thieves' health bars. Look at this team. The tankiest person is a support Sett.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult, right? And he's not even going to be building any MR. Contractz has moved towards this kind of pseudo-supportive style of build. The Athene's is great for Nidalee. You're just landing the poke, you're healing up, with the bonus charges that you're actually landing from all the damage you deal. So can be pretty nice, but yeah, it gets difficult, right? Because Rakan engage is so hard to actually avoid, and PowerOfEvil always loves these death cap builds where he goes to that death cap second item almost every game on a lot of these champions, because it makes him so incredibly strong when he actually does hit it, and he doesn't feel like he needs to go defensive. He's not building the early Merc treads. He's not building the Banshee's Veil, even though he's against Nidalee and Syndra. And that's one of the things that I think sometimes kind of goes unnoticed with this guy, is that he is performing very consistently, but he's also not actually building defensively while doing it. He's able to survive off of his own skill and kind of just scale towards what is an even stronger teamfight build.
That's Chad Orianna if I've ever seen one. I support this kind of gameplay. There's no reason to build defensively if all your opponents are dead.
True.
Take any damage. The only thing that's ever going to hurt you is a Baron. And guess what? You have an alligator to tank that for you. You're not concerned.
You're not wrong.
But FlyQuest is now sitting in a spot where the gold is less than 1,000 apart. where 100 Thieves might try to set some sort of a trap down here for Solo, but he seems pretty content to recognize that, hey, he's been the sacrificial lamb this game. It's time to just farm up, not risk anything. Especially when he walks up right there, he can see that the Krugs are still just chilling there. Like, there's not really any reason to mess with that. So FlyQuest will now continue trying to just keep this game in an even enough state, farm up. There's nothing to really fight for right now. Nobody's feeling confident enough in their current strength to want to force a Baron play. Cody Sun getting himself away from IgNar, using the Blade of the Ruined King active. That one is 90 seconds. That's not reduced by cooldown reduction, so that will not be available at the start of this Drake fight if they start it up on spawn. And Ezreal, we're still just 60 seconds away from another Drake fight as Ryoma, he's not where he needs to be. Mash goes on a killing spree, and Ryoma will be alive in time for this Drake, but getting that pick on the 100 Thieves mid laner, 0 and 4 on this Syndra. Yes, he has assists, but the man is dying an awful lot.
Santorin dropping the emotes, and yeah, now IgNar looking again potentially for Ssumday, but it was IgNar on the flank, right? That is one I will say that they maybe should have known about, because he actually tried to go on Cody Sun, and Cody Sun was over by that red buff, so you had to know that IgNar could have been there. Ssumday getting very aggressive. The Poome is on the flank.
Mash trying to get himself away, but Ssumday is able to bring down the hammer, and now PowerOfEvil is going to feel the power of Cody Sun. Look at the damage flying out through these spears, as IgNar should likely die here to the solo kill coming out from Ssumday as well.
Ryoma's
doesn't
behind
have the
them.
flash to go over the wall and chase him. Ryoma coming in from behind. There's your Syndra flank, Isaac. There's your plays from 100 Thieves. A double kill for Ryoma. He heard me talking smack. He put those kills on the board. And now the Thieves will take both the Drake and the Baron. They're starting up both objectives at once.
That was huge, and FlyQuest there, moving up very, very aggressively, but Poome was able to actually find the flank, and somebody just kind of walked in very brazenly. It didn't feel like FlyQuest, reacted quickly to the damage that Ssumday was doing, because I don't think that they realized Poome was behind him. So I think they were just calling to actually finish off that tower, and instead, they just get absolutely wiped off the map. This should be an easy to secure Baron. They are now at soul point. And it went from feeling like FlyQuest is in full control to 100 Thieves are on the verge of victory here. So let's watch this one more time. This is after that initial pick. Poome has actually snuck around a lot of the vision. He gets spotted now on that ward, so they should know that he's actually coming. But look at Ssumday. He's just walking into the middle of the team, jumps in on Ezreal through everyone, and it just did not feel like they were prepared for that flank whatsoever. Did not respect the potential of 100 Thieves engaging because they had already killed off Ryoma. I think that gave them far too much confidence in their position there, not respecting how strong the Jayce had been. And as you said, I was making fun of Ryoma for the last TP flank there on Syndra, but this one obviously with 3 members chasing 2 and he comes in behind was going to work out a lot better. Well done by him.
Ssumday is only good at League of Legends on days that end in a Y. This man can just turn water into wine in these fights, making the damage happen, finding the angles to be successful here with the Jayce. And FlyQuest now find themselves very much on the back foot. 3,500 gold down. They've got to deal with a Baroned up 100 Thieves for the next 2 minutes. And then shortly thereafter, they will have to fight for the Drake that could be the Ocean Soul for 100 Thieves as well. Cody Sun taking down the tier 2 there in the top side. FlyQuest may be looking for an opportunity here in mid lane, but they don't want to force things onto Poome. Full tank Sett, not the target that you've got to be engaging on. Solo trying to hold things down there in the top lane, wants to defend that tier 3 turret. Tier 1 still holding on here in the mid lane for FlyQuest, but 100 Thieves are doing their best to throw in all of these Syndra spheres, all of these spears, and just keep that poke train going.
Yeah, FlyQuest is just trying to delay this Baron as much as they can. They are going to have to give up this tower eventually, but they committed the shockwave on the previous wave, trying to just push back 100 Thieves, trying to protect as many of these objectives as they can, because they know that they're going to have to fight for Soul at next Dragon, and they've got to make sure that they're not too far behind in gold when that actually happens. Smash has got to be a bit careful here as Solo is getting really low, and they committed a lot of people towards that mid lane, but Renekton can't actually hold this Kalista by himself when Kalista is ahead and has that Baron buff.
Mash My words didn't work there for a second. Let me try that again. Mash eing aggressively.
Redo.
Over the wall. Yeah, just rewind that there for a second.
Chrono
Aggressively over the wall, making sure he could try to just jump forward and keep these guys away, keep them scared a little bit. It's risky, but at least they've pushed them back. Solo is healed up. FlyQuest continuing to hold the line. The important thing here is that they don't lose any of those tier 3 turrets. They don't end up with vulnerable inhibitors that 100 Thieves can force a fight on in open ground. And it seems like they'll be successful with that. PowerOfEvil has one more minion wave to clear out. And you can see Ssumday wanting to use the last couple seconds of that Baron buff to get himself a faster recall. 100 Thieves going back to base. And look at the inventories. 2 control wards for Contractz, 2 control wards for Poome. Everybody coming out ready to prepare for this Drake because a victory here is Ocean Soul for 100 Thieves.
They are 5,000 gold ahead, so that is pretty nice. A lot of it is on Ssumday, so he has to have a successful fight. But Cody Sun getting pretty strong at this point, too. He just completed his Bloodthirster, so he has double lifesteal, Hurricane, and the stopwatch. And that's kind of that point where you start to get pretty difficult to actually take down. There's not a lot of healing debuffs, you know, over on this FlyQuest side that are going to be like guaranteed. So, you know, there's always that potential for him to just be able to heal it back up. Yes, there is that Thornmail over on Santorin, and there's an Executioner on the Ezreal. But, you know, if he gets hit by that Shockwave combo, there's still potential for him to heal up off someone like the Rakan or like, you know, this Renekton.
100 Thieves backing away as FlyQuest move aggressively forward to clear out some of this vision. Spear will not connect onto any target. Control wards placed down by FlyQuest to clear out both the wards and the traps. PowerOfEvil's Banshee's Veil is going to block a spell. However, that means 45 seconds until that one's back up and ready to go. Ryoma still having his Banshee's Veil ready to go. Mash, he eats the accelerated Shock Blast before he's able to Essence Shift away. And now with Cody Sun and Poome controlling the bottom side river, 100 Thieves are feeling in control right now. That mistake from FlyQuest in the mid lane that gave away the Drake, that gave away the Baron, has just flipped this game upside down from where it was. And Cody Sun nearly finding the kill onto IgNar. With their big initiation mechanism down to 300 HP, FlyQuest are seriously feeling the hurt right now. They have got to find some sort of a crazy angle to take this fight from, because if IgNar gets hit by anything, he is just going to collapse. Cody Sun starting up the Drake. Remember, this is Kalista. He doesn't need the jungler nearby to smite secure it. He's got the Rend. Santorin's hanging out, wants to be able to contest this one, wants to be able to steal it away. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen, initiation coming in from FlyQuest. Ocean Drake's going to reset, and FlyQuest are able to find themselves one kill, but now they're going to lose PowerOfEvil. They're going to throw Poome right back into the fight. It's a double kill over to Cody. It's Solo barely getting himself away from downtown. 3 points for Ssumday, and 100 Thieves are looking to secure the soul. Cody Sun's got it done, and ladies and gentlemen, it is all looking good for the boys in red.
The PowerOfEvil just got caught there. You know, as they engaged forward, it didn't look like he was actually able to connect with the rest of his team to follow up on that shockwave, so they didn't have quite enough damage to take down the rest of that 100 Thieves squad. And as they slipped away, so much healing from lifesteal from Cody Sun, so much healing, you know, even out of this Nidalee, they now have that Ocean Soul, and 100 Thieves are in such a good spot. But a lot of credit really deserved by Cody Sun for actually sussing out where IgNar was going to be flanking from. You know, that's something that I was talking about earlier in the game, how good he is at finding these different angles, these locations that you don't necessarily expect the Rakan to be. And he's been doing that all season long. And this time, Cody Sun went hunted because they saw everyone else on FlyQuest. So you can face check the Rakan if it's just the Rakan. And he actually went and found him in the tri-brush, chunked him out. And as a result, you know, that was a lot more difficult of a fight for FlyQuest.
100 Thieves now looking for their second Baron of the game. With a 5,000 gold lead and an Ocean Soul edge, they have to know how far ahead they are. Santorin trying to step up here, throw some axes into the brush to clear and move forward. PowerOfEvil is about to get killed in 3 auto attacks from Ssumday, but the CC shows up. PowerOfEvil still kept alive for a moment, but Cody Sun's going on a rampage. Ssumday's at 25%, but he is still trucking. Using the hammer to knock Solo away, trying to get himself out, but he will be shut down. Solo stands alone in the middle of 4, and Cody Sun has a triple kill. 100 Thieves now making the call. Baron is not the focus. It's mid lane they're looking for. They could just be going for the end right here on this push.
Yeah, there's a long time on these respawns, and not a lot of damage here between Santorin.
Oh, IgNar, he goes into the Zonias trying to keep himself alive. He wants to dash away, but Ryoma's got his number. Santorin, the last man standing. It's a double kill for Ryoma. He was 0-4 and now he's 4-5. He went 4-1 since that big turnaround there in the mid lane. And with everybody's screen on FlyQuest side seeing black and white, it is nothing but dubs. Here for 100 Thieves, making the plays happen. They will find their 3rd win of the split at the end of the first round robin, and they will take down FlyQuest.
And what a game from Ssumday. This man was an absolute monster. In the final fight there over by the blue buff, he is flashing over the shockwave to continue going for PowerOfEvil there. You know, in that 1v2 against IgNar and PowerOfEvil, he knew how damn strong he was, and he made the most of it. This guy was an absolute monster throughout this game, you know, including in that pivotal fight at the mid lane tier 2 that really did turn the game around. You know, he was in there taking down Mash solo. He's killing PowerOfEvil off in this final fight. And 100 Thieves find a way to make it work after it did feel like they had let their leads slip, but one massive fight in mid lane got them Soul Point, got them Baron, one more, got them that Ocean Soul, and that's all they needed.
That fight in mid lane is the story of the game to me, because FlyQuest was in the driver's seat up until that point. And then 100 Thieves just shows up, and all of a sudden they're playing Grand Theft Auto, ripping them out of the car, taking over themselves, and driving that sucker straight to the enemy nexus. And there's nothing FlyQuest was able to do about it, because they weren't prepared. It's like you said, by the time they reacted, Poome and Ssumday were already in that flank position, and it was too damn little, too damn late.
Yeah, it really was. A lot of credit deserved by 100 Thieves. First Nidalee win in the LCS so far this split. Moving to 1-5 now, baby. On the board there for Contractz.
She's in there.
Yeah, and honestly, they're doing much better since they have actually swapped in this new roster, right? They picked up the win against Dignitas. It was a messy one, but now taking down FlyQuest. This is a team that a lot of people were looking at as a top team. Yes, FlyQuest made mistakes, but also I do think 100 Thieves did a good job of actually forcing out those mistakes, of playing aggressively. You know, even after they made some errors and kind of gave a little bit of the lead back towards FlyQuest, they continued to play towards their win conditions. They were setting up and forcing aggressively around objectives, trying to utilize the early game power that they had actually drafted for, and that's just something that you really love to see out of these teams.
And I said that I would be happy to admit if I was wrong. We saw 100 Thieves draft a composition that wins through poke and split push and flanks. They didn't have that same hard engage that FlyQuest did, but hey, that one big flank in the mid lane was more than enough to do it. I guess I should have trusted the Papa. That was my fault. I'll have to remember that one for next time. 100 Thieves pull off the win here against FlyQuest. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we will hear from the winning squad before we call it a Friday. Don't y'all go anywhere.
Verizon knows how to build unlimited right. You start with America's most awarded network, the one with unbeatable reliability 13 times in a row.
This network is one less thing I have to worry about.
Then you give people more plans to mix and match, so you only pay for what you need.
Verizon Unlimited plan is so reasonable, they could stay on for the rest of their lives.
You include the best in entertainment, and you offer it all starting at $35, because everyone deserves the best. This is Unlimited built right, only on Verizon.
Your Honda MVP!
Dreams aren't achieved overnight. They take passion.
It's Mr. World, right?
Dedication. And even then, there are no guarantees. But for the LCS, that's the power of dreams.
Too bad!
It means you never give up. It means you always play again. Honda, proud automotive partner of the LCS.
Welcome back to the Verizon postgame interview. Today is the day we're joined by Ssumday. It's 100 Thieves Ssumday after their victory over FlyQuest, the 4th place squad in the standings right now. Ssumday, congrats on the win, first of all. And you had a beast of a game. How did it feel throughout? What were you thinking? And, you know, the win came pretty easy for you.
I definitely think we could play more clean, but that game we showed how much we can be as a team. So I'm proud of my team.
In seeing the team come together so much recently, what has been the focus of practice? Because it seems to be working.
Actually, we had some problem because everyone has a lot of energy. So sometimes it's more like over energy. So we try to be more disciplined and then play around more like as a team.
Awesome. Well, a lot of teams have trouble putting that from scrims onto the Rift, so it seems like 100 Thieves is already able to do that. My next question for you is about the bot lane. I want to ask about Poome. We haven't been able to talk to him or seen him too much other than a few games. How's it been able to play, playing with him, and is he talking a lot? Is he doing a lot of comms for the team?
I'm really surprised how good at he is because I heard he debuted like a few months ago and he played really well, and I think his personality is very straightforward, so it's really helpful to like when we have problem or need to solve the problem, he accepts well to other opinion, so I really like play with him.
That's an awesome attribute to have in teammates, especially when they're just joining and they're ready to learn. My final question for you Ssumday. Tomorrow's game, Cloud9 versus TSM. Who's going to win?
Yeah, 2 team is one of the best team in NA, but I'm gonna choose C9. Yeah.
All right.
They
All
play
right.
really well.
That's where everybody's been going. That's great. Ssumday, thank you so much for the interview and best of luck in the rest of the split.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, we're going to throw it to the State Farm analyst desk to break down the day.
Thank you, Riv. Just like the rest of them, Ssumday seems to be putting his eggs in the Cloud9 basket for tomorrow, but nonetheless, looking at the match we just witnessed, really stepping into the leadership role, but across the board, a tremendous victory for 100 Thieves and the first victory for Nidalee within this split of the LCS.
Against a huge opponent. Just last week, we were having segments on is FlyQuest the second best team in the league, and now the revamped 100 Thieves roster is able to just crush this team from the very get-go. The early game, which was a weakness for FlyQuest in the first place, I think this is really impressive.
Yeah, I was shrinking down about who was talking about FlyQuest being the second best team. Who would have been saying that? The draft is one that, we kind of seen before. Like, CLG played a very similar draft where it's a bunch of ranged champions. It's Jayce, Nidalee. It's all early game. Even Kalista and Syndra can be seen as more early game. And the fact that they were able to execute on it, have a good early game, stumble in the mid game, come back is really impressive. And I give a lot of that credit to Contractz, actually. Back, if people can remember, when he went to Worlds, played Ezreal jungle, and I think it was Graves jungle were two of the ranged ranged jungle champions that were meta at the time, and he was fantastic on them and had great performances at Worlds. And so it's cool to see him now, years later, playing another ranged jungler in Nidalee and having a really dominating performance.
Yeah, when it comes to Contractz, it was actually recently in his Travis Gafford interview where he was talking about his early game being a strength and mid game something that he was working on. If we look at some of the early game play that happened here today, I think it's safe to say that he does have some strength.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these drafts, you have to say, like, 100 Thieves is playing an aggressive draft. They need to play aggressively. And if you could see here, their bot lane and jungle invaded bot, while Jayce was actually invading the blue buff, so they know exactly where Olaf was starting. And this is PowerOfEvil playing very disrespectful against 100 Thieves, and it was really good on Contractz to notice this guy's too far up in the lane. They land all their skills, and PoE just flashes too late. And then this is just a good reaction. Contractz smites the wolf to get enough HP in case there's a fight, and Santorin takes the bait and goes in. Again, Ryoma lands another skill shot, perfect execution, and now they have a 2-0 start in such a what's the word? Flimsy, fragile composition. If they get behind, they're going to have a lot of trouble. So they really had to make these plays work in the early game. They didn't have much room for error.
And the fact of the matter is, though, when it comes to those errors, there are still ways that FlyQuest was able to keep themselves within this game, particularly some objective fights that did go in the favor of green.
Yeah, those big fights that PoE was able to land some really fat shockwaves here, and this is where Ezreal wanted to see a little bit more poke, and usually when you have that Nidalee, like, yeah, why not land a little bit more poke, but they step up, and the PoE is able to land that shockwave when Ryoma was going for his own GLP and Scatter the Weak, so that was a pretty big moment, considering that they also stole the Dragon, but because 100 Thieves had done a solid job in every single dragon setup, there was always either a fight or an opportunity for them to take it, and this is what we have seen from them in Academy, particularly Contractz and Poome, focusing around the early game, focusing around objectives, so they're transitioning this over into the LCS. It worked really well, and also the lessons that, or the early game that Academy Ssumday had played in 2019, where they just completely ran over games, was also focused a lot about winning top lane in the early game as well, so I think that a lot of the things that these teams have worked on and these players had practiced for the past year and a half are really showing today.
Yeah, I'm much more impressed with what they did after that mistake at the Dragon fight, because the early game, you get to practice it a million times over the week. It's really it's the most practiced part of the game for most people, and it's also where their comp is the strongest. The fact that they made blunders with such a fragile comp, like Prawley was saying, and were still able to then make good plays afterwards is actually the more impressive part to me, more so than the early game.
So if we're thinking about those moments in which 100 Thieves were able to take control later on and work around those objectives, you have to look at the fight that ended up happening pre-Baron.
And this happened because Ryoma, they engaged and killed Ryoma in the mid lane. But right after that, 100 Thieves weren't too vexed by being down 4v5. They actually engaged on this turret. Poome did a really great flank on Sett, and this kind of blew the game open because this was the fight that 100 Thieves really needed to solidify their gold lead in the game.
Which Ssumday hard carry. To be able to snipe an Ezreal among the rest of the enemy team and still walk around alive, I think he just had a great game that here now Ryoma gets to basically repent for his earlier sins, which were quite a few.
There was numerous,
but we will forgive him. We forgive him for those because that was a huge comeback play, but it's still, none of that would have been possible if it wasn't for Jayce being able to just one-shot the Ezreal and continue to carry on the fight.
And in addition to serving a role on the Rift, Ssumday, he has actually said in 100 Thieves content that he feels he needs to fill this leadership position with the absence of Meteos. So if you're looking at this in particular, Prawley, how do you feel that the identity of 100 Thieves is forming around this new roster? Do we have enough of the veteranship with Ssumday holding strong in the top lane to try and bring those players like Poome into this LCS status?
Oh, absolutely. I coached Ssumday for 2 years, and I think the first spring finals that we played together, that's kind of when I realized, like, this guy, if he really wants, could solo lead a team. Because in this playoff match that we had with Ssumday, it was really, really difficult, really, really long game. It was really grueling, and Ssumday started shot calling in the game, which he never did before then. So I know if he really had to do it and he was forced into the position and he felt the responsibility on himself, he could actually perform as a shot caller and a leader for a team.
That's what we're constantly getting to see here in the LCS. People stepping up not just within their play, but their qualities and what they contribute to the team as a whole. And as far as how that affects the standings, I mean, 100 Thieves have to be feeling pretty good about getting another win under their belt. We've also got Dignitas picking up a much-needed win before they hit the halfway point here in the split, which brings them tied to 9th, while 100 Thieves after this are going to chain through and hope to continue on with their victories for the rest of the split. Now, everyone watching, please come back and meet us here tomorrow, where Game 2 has the only team that was able to take a game off Cloud9 in spring getting another shot at the Keens. And lo and behold, it is a long-time rivalry between TSM and Cloud9 after the show match that we witnessed today, where Cloud9 did hand the victory over, or got the victory for themselves. Mark, how do you think that the match tomorrow will compare to the fun that we ended up getting to lead into today with?
I would bet that it's a similar speed of the game, but I doubt
TSM gets as many kills in the real match as they were able to get in the show match. And it's really funny hearing all the interviews from people, and everyone's basically like, yeah, it's C9. And they're almost like offended that you're even asking them if TSM
it's a trick question.
Win.
It's trying to find out like who are the people that are you know, who's TSM paying to say like get you to say TSM's going to beat T9, because no one in their right mind would be able to say TSM could beat, despite the fact that they beat T9. They're just too dominant right now. It's just not even close. With a team that's been this inconsistent, yeah, they can beat them, right? It's happened before. They have high highs, low lows, but they would have to be, you know, all those stars aligned, and then suddenly Cloud9 plays a mixture of how they played against Golden Guardians and Dignitas, and then now, okay, now you could see it happen.
I did particularly enjoy the chuckle alongside Dardog's answer when he had to give a prediction for that match. Sentiment that seems to be shared by some, but you will just have to tune in tomorrow to see how the actual result plays out. In the end, that does it for us here on the LCS. On behalf of myself, the casters, and the entire remote broadcast crew, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night.